Some of you have volunteered to be on the chopping block, so your wish is my command. Welcome to Awkward Audit, a new series that analyzes your video submissions and then eviscerates the heart and soul of your creative choices for entertainment and knowledge. I'm kidding about the eviscerating, that's not the goal here, but we will be exploring in greater depth what you're already doing really well as a content creator and what could benefit from a little fine-tuning. I first want to say thank you so much for submitting your work. Your willingness to be open to critique is a quality that I really respect, especially as someone who is a very sensitive person and gets very close to her own work. Nobody wants to hear that their baby isn't the cutest baby. Nobody wants to kill their darlings. There's also a very subjective quality to all of this, and so you can take or leave this advice as you see fit. Today I will be reviewing 3 videos from 3 different creators in 3 different genres, because variety is the spice of life. And I wanted to mix it up this way because your audience, your target demographic, is going to inform so many of your choices in the editing room. And those choices are going to be very different for, say, an experimental music video and a cooking show. Now, in the interest of keeping this as brief as possible, we're not going to watch the entirety of every video, but I will give you some context about the subject matter, so we're not going in totally blind. This first video is by a channel with a really interesting premise. It's called Unboxing Betty, and the creator is taking you on the journey of cooking through Betty Crocker's 1971 recipe card library. That's a lot of recipes. Let's take a look. Choppy chop.
Now I'm gonna do this. Okay, we did it.
Okay, right off the bat, we're given a great introduction to the personality here. The hostess appears to be very pleasantly surprised that this worked out for her, and something about that is very relatable to me. Nice integration of a bumper here. It's evident in the music, the color scheme, the minimalistic design approach. It all speaks to the strength of her overall branding. And that appears to be Betty Crocker laying in a pool of her own frosting. I think from this imagery, we can make an assumption that this might not go well. One suggestion I would offer is that with bumpers like this, it's best to keep them as brief as possible. Viewers tend to drop off right around this point in a video, especially if it runs too long. They just want to get to the meat and potatoes, you know, or in this case, the cake. And you can look in your analytics and see if that's reflected in the data. If you're seeing a sharp drop off in views this early on, what that's telling you is that people lost interest and they clicked out. So many creators are not even including intros in their videos anymore because it can affect viewer retention. I personally love them and find that when they're executed right, it really helps to strengthen the message of your brand. But that's coming from someone that likes to create bumpers, so I have a little bit of bias here.
I think it should be good. Obviously, it's chocolate and angel food cake. Where can you go wrong?
Agreed. I want angel food cake now.
I don't know why it's called Waldorf. I can't think of any other dessert that is called Waldorf that's chocolate and almond.
This section, I think, misses a great opportunity to educate. As a viewer, I don't know the answer to that question you're asking either, but I am curious. So if this was scripted out beforehand, I would try to find the answer to that question, and you can present this recipe to the audience while giving them a fun fact to keep them engaged. I looked up Waldorf, and it seemed to have its roots in a cookbook from the late 1920s by a man whose claim to fame was his inclusion of nuts in a salad. Maybe there's a nut connection there, Melinda? That sounded really bad, but something to consider for the future.
Let's take a look here. Oh,
ooh, so foamy. Oddly satisfying.
I kind of vaguely remember last time like doing something with the knife to make it even, but she doesn't say any of that. She doesn't say any of that.
This is me with everything. I feel seen.
In the cake section, angel, 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 devil's food, not devil, angel. Don't get distracted.
Pause. We all agree angel's better, right? Tell me in the comments.
Have you seen that hack where you could do this with like dental floss?
I have not, but I have used a strand of my own hair to floss my teeth before. Long story for another day. So a big strength of this video is the quirky, kind of clumsy, very endearing personality. That really shines through here, and that's not something that you can really teach. It's just something that you feel as a viewer. Having watched the entirety of this video, my overall criticisms would be try to incorporate more visual aids if you can. There is some usage of that here, like showing the recipe card, but having more of that will really help to synthesize the information for your viewers. You know, because most people are visual learners. I would also recommend making more use of your above the bowl camera angle. It helps to break up the monotony a little bit, and we get to see the light, airy, yummy cake in delicious detail. Thanks for your submission. Our next video comes from Taylor Shain-Foster Parenting, a channel that focuses on the challenges and the rewards of being a foster parent. Very cool. Let's get into it. Choppy chop.
Around 3 a.m. on December 31st, 2019, we received our first foster care placement phone call. And then my wife turned it off.
Strong opening.
And then a few minutes later, we received another phone call. And she turned that one off too.
I like the suspense here. He's building tension. Now the tension has to be resolved. Let's see what happens.
I think we were so tired and groggy that we didn't realize that that was actually an important phone call.
Ooh, okay, let's pause for a second. There is a very noticeable increase in the volume of the music here, and it's a little bit distracting. We don't want the supporting elements in a video to overpower the voice and the very important message being delivered. This is a quick fix and not one that I feel the need to expand on, except to say that sometimes the little things are the big things. And this one with sound in particular is really easy to miss, because when we're looking and listening to something over and over and over, our ears have a way of naturally adjusting to it and normalizing it. And so the solution for that might just be wearing headphones so that you can hear those imbalances, or simply taking a break and coming back with fresh eyes and fresh ears to be able to listen for those inconsistencies. But try to catch them as early as you can, because like I said, your senses will adapt in a way that can skew your judgment, and it can be very jarring with audio in particular.
But then when we woke up, we found a voicemail. Our social worker was looking for a placement for 2 young boys, about ages 5 and 6.
There's a lot of heart here, and I think at this moment, putting up a photo with faces heavily blurred, of course, would have packed a bigger punch emotionally, because we would see and feel the human connection. We don't really get that from the image of a static phone. It serves as a placeholder here, but it doesn't emotionally resonate. And I know by the end of this video that it was not 2 young boys that you ultimately fostered, it was a 10-month-old girl. So you would have to get creative in how you illustrated this, but I think even some generic stock footage or photos would have had more impact than a phone.
We both felt intimidated by the idea of 2 kids. It felt like we weren't ready for it. We were freaking out. And I think we were both kind of intimidated by the idea of foster care anyway. And you know, the crazy thing is, I think we almost said yes.
Let's talk about the rapid fire cuts. I think the intention was to illustrate the panic that settled in with the possibility of this new reality with 2 young boys. We've got a side profile, a wide shot. Now we're front and center again. Now we're back to the side. It comes across as a little bit disjointed. And I think a stronger illustrator instead might have been a quick montage of clips or photos that visually highlight what that imagined chaos of new foster parenthood looks like. 2 boys, ages 5 and 6, maybe toys on the ground, spilled milk, mud tracked through a carpet. Again, these could be royalty-free stock images that you're relying on if you don't have the resources to film it yourself, but they paint a fuller picture and they give greater emphasis to the feeling of, we're freaking out. Are we going to be able to handle this? This creator actually employed some of this later in the video with baby formula and diapers and clothes and snacks, and it was very effective and a lot more engaging to watch. So my advice would be more of that. Overall, great writing here. I love the message and the advice at the end for other foster parents navigating the intense emotions that are felt by both parent and child in this situation. And I wish you success. Thanks for your submission. Okay, and last but not least, let's switch gears a little bit. This one caught my attention because it incorporates motion graphics, and you know I'm a sucker for that. This video was submitted by creator Frank Galpin. Hope I didn't butcher that last name, Frank. Sorry if I did. And Frank, in his email to me, was very clear that getting torn to shreds was an experience he welcomed. Now, I'm not doing that, but I kind of love that you gave me permission. Let's get choppy.
I know a place where we can be eternal ecstasy.
There's a lot going on here, and a lot of lessons we can learn from. The first of which is perfectly summarized in a quote by a French poet that says, "A designer knows he has achieved perfection, not when there's nothing left to add, but when there's nothing left to take away." Now, I do understand that abstract visuals in an artistic sense can be subjective, but I think this is an example of how throwing every bell and whistle at something can actually dilute its overall impact. Lyric videos in particular are all about how and where you're guiding the viewer's attention, and you get to be the master of that. You decide. So a good question to ask yourself might be, what dominant element in this scene do I want the audience to focus on? Because you're working with very limited real estate and time, and therefore they're not going to catch all of this because there's just simply too much to catch. Keep in mind that the space you fill with graphics is just as important as the negative space surrounding it. There has to be a balance.
So gather up your dreams and come up, won't you see?
Ooh, okay. Let's talk about colors and contrast. There's a little bit of clash here because the text is very dark, and even with the white stroke, it doesn't pop, it blends. And it makes it hard to read because there's not enough separation between the text element and the background. And how you fix this is through contrast. Dark text against a light backdrop, great. Light text against a dark backdrop, also great. Dark text against a dark backdrop, not as great. Here's the thing about editing. There are certain principles and rules that can be useful in guiding you in a certain direction, but as with most things, once you know the rules, then you can break the rules, and then it gets fun. So take what you need from this, Frank, and just leave the rest. Thank you for your submission. Thank you so much for watching and supporting Awkward Anthems. And if I didn't get to your video today, it's on the list. And if the Awkward community likes this format, we'll just keep it going. Cool? Choppy chop! And until next time, awkward and out. Let's see, where could I cut it? Could I do something cool here? Ooh, maybe I could do like a transition this way. God, I gotta be careful. Oh my God, did I break it? No, I need this. It's called boxing on Betty. That's not right.